Welcome to the screencast where I'll be showing you how to deploy a production ready and a highly available OpenShift cluster via Ansible. Before we begin, let me just quickly show you an architecture diagram which should give you a brief idea of how the deployment will look like. So we'll have two broker nodes which will be responsible for taking all the requests from your clients and deploying those applications or those cartridges onto your OpenShift nodes. You can deploy n number of OpenShift nodes via Ansible, that should be fine. The broker will be using MQ for its internal communication, and it will use the Mongo database for storing all the configurations. We'll be creating 3 of these nodes so that even if one of the nodes fails, there will be no service disruption. We'll also have 2 nodes which will be running the load balancers. They will be clustered and they will have a virtual IP. The clients will be using those virtual IP to access the entire infrastructure, so that even in case any one of your load balancer goes down, the client will never feel the service disruption. We'll also have a DNS server which will be responsible for serving up the DNS names for all the newly created domains. Now let's get to the deployment. So I have a host which is pre-installed with Ansible, and I've checked out the OpenShift repo which contains all the playbooks for deploying your OpenShift clusters. I've also created 5 new nodes, VM1, VM2, VM3, VM4 and 5, which will be running all those OpenShift components. Now one of the first things that you have to do is set up your inventory vi host. Now this inventory tells Ansible which node is responsible or which node should take up which role. For example, this inventory says that my VM1 should have the DNS server running, my VM1, VM2 and VM3 should have the Mongo service running, and likewise. Now currently I have clubbed many roles into single nodes, but if you are using this for an actual production use, we will recommend that you use separate nodes for all the separate roles. Now to start the deployment, issue the following command. You have to say ansible-playbook -i host site.yaml -vb. This would start the deployment, and it takes around 15 to 20 minutes to complete the installation, and you should have the entire OpenShift cluster ready in around 15 to 20 minutes of time. Deployment is completed. You should be able to see a summary of all the tasks that has been executed in the player recap, and once that is done, we can test our newly deployed OpenShift cluster. Now to do that, what we'll be doing is that we'll be creating an application that will be deployed on the OpenShift, and to do that we'll be accessing the management console, and we'll be creating the application through the management console. Now we'll be accessing the management console via the virtual IP assigned to the load balancers. Now you can get that virtual IP from group/all. This is the file which will define which your virtual IP is, and etc. So as you can see, the virtual IP that I have given for my load balancers is the 192.168.2.15. So now let me try to open up a browser and access the management console. So I say https://192.168.2.15. It will tell me that it's an untrusted connection. I say understand the risks, I add the exception, I confirm the security exception, and it will ask me for an authentication to log into the management console. Default username is demo and the password is passme. I say okay. I don't want to remember the password. Now let us create the first application. Create your first application now. Now I'm going to create a Python 2.6 based application. So I click on Python 2.6. I give it a name. I say my pyapp1, and I say create application. Let's give it a couple of seconds before it gets created. Okay, so now you can see that the first application is created, and you can access the application via this URL. Okay, now let's test the HA part of it. So for that, what we can do is that we can try to shut down some of the machines. Now let's open up our inventory and see. So let's shut down one broker, and also let's shut down one server which is running the MongoDB and the MQ. So let's shut down VM7 and let's shut down VM2. So I go to VM7 and I say power off, and I go to VM2 and I say power off. So let me just quickly check if the machines have gone down or not. Say 192.168.2.2. So this is the IP of my VM7. Sorry, it's not 2.2, it's 2.3. Yeah, so I think the machine has gone down. So let's do one thing. Let's go back to the browser and let's try to open up a new session and try to create a new application. So I say http yes //192.168.2.15, and it again shows me that, and I say understand the risks, it might be hitting the next server. I say add exception, I say confirm security exception, and it shows me the console. And as you can see, this is my previously created application. Now I try to create a new application. I say add application, and let me create a Python 2.6 based application. Application name, let me give it as my py app 2, and I say create application. Let's give it a couple of seconds and see if that application gets created. So as you can see, your application has been created, and this is the URL for my second application. So as you can see that we have shut down one of the brokers, we have shut down a MongoDB server, we have also shut down an MQ server, but still we can access the application. And we hope that if you're using OpenShift, check out the repo in GitHub, check out the playbooks, and we highly encourage you to test or play with it to deploy your OpenShift deployments. Thank you.